Hey people, y'all seen this? This is a magic trick here. They foresaw this problem with Meghan and the Queen 4 years ago and filmed this. You can tell they just got too much hair. They got all these replacements for family members that don't show up. You can see the same studio back there, and they go in whenever they're in town and go shoot family photos with the family. And they leak this out at certain times to keep all the conspiracy theorists happy. And they just want to leak this out there, so either way you believe it, you're wrong. It's a little magic. So the last couple movies, Abaddon, this will be going in that folder. And I had to look over here in the Greek. So in the Hebrew, the 12 lines before this, it was talking about the moon as it was a whore. And this Greek over here is just too easy to read. Calm comes from, to hyper, UPR, to hyper, AV of not hyper. What on him. To hyper of not what on. And of, OF, AQ is OF. Of come her on. Ponder on those of a rouge to a mortal of a truce. And so this a rouge to a mortal of a truce, it could mean the man, the red mortals, the red men in a truce. And it could have several meanings, but what I want to look at is this of. This of is spelled 4 different ways here. It's AV here, of, and it's, to hyper, to over, of, not. And so, it's of as in the knowledge connected. And so, knowledge connected to what's over, So it could be talking like over a fraction. And it's knowledge connected, is also the power connected. And to the hyper of, like a superscript, it's power. And so it's, it's hyper of not. The exponent, the power of, to hyper of. And so it's not necessarily calm. It could be, to hyper, knowledge connected, not. So not above. So it could mean under. So I think that's signifying it's of as in an adjective or an adverb or something like that. What on. And then this is a of as in a distance. And and it's knowledge and the center. And the word probably been forced, because in the first Bible, it had this mark and let me know that more of this word was reading. But, here it's just of, from a distance in time or length, to come her on, upon her on, and those of, to see connected, has an actual limb, one of your fingers, to see connected. And a rouge, and that could have several meanings. It really looks like a red, a rouge. A rouge meaning the rouge, red powder, cream, used as a cosmetic. And to a mortal, to break a mortal down, it's to him, are, to low, the low man, to immortals, to are too low. A rouge, a red to are too low in a truce. And so this is where your word bathroom come from. You see batru is a cesspool, or with a V also. It's a cesspool. And batrus are cesspools. Batrus, cesspool. To hyper of not what on, of come on upon her on those of a rouge, of a red to a mortal of vote rose. And at it took, the little mark here is telling me to read this, OTIT. And so some people was reading this as Audie took it. Audie had done that, Audie took it. And some are reading it as at it okay. Had he okayed it, at it okay. And so this is okay, it's never not, it's yes. Did he get it okayed? Was it okay to take? Audie took. And this is where the word opposite comes from. Apo, away, po, and so oppose on the other side, opposed to, opposite. But this is how they've changed the meaning of the Bible. This is the main trick. They changed the meaning of okay and nay. You see this is plainly not, too hyper of not is calm and okay. And you see over here Matthew 5:37, they give the nay, nay a yes, yes. And you see a capital letter here. And then of this no, no is just the OU now is of. They got it reversed. But they try to make a statement out of this, but it's a question. And is to Dio, Theo, is to God words, is to Dio words, whom on nay, not of, and of to depression, the meaning of the words, of to depression, taught on. And this is another of, this EK, not from, but it replaces the L, meaning of, and it's let of. And of to depression, taught on, the let to, the let of, ponner, of, estin, in the future, the destiny, estin, to a ponner of vestin, to give it the power. But that's what I was wanting to show you over here is these words of, to see connected to keg, to bottle according to, and how the different letters used in the word of help define the words. But I don't want to try to interpret any of this without putting it in context. I haven't read any of this in the Greek. But I got something to show you in Hebrew that you're going to read and you're going to trip out that people didn't catch it. I ended off at line 12 in that last movie, and this is where 13 starts. And that you may give it a rest. Back in the day, that's what Mama used to say just before she beat your ass. Give it a rest. And Grandma, from the snobbier side of the family, she might have said, we'll have less of it. We'll have less of that. Less of it does mean give it a rest. But it also means less of it. They could have put that up there. So this channel's called Strictly Educational Magic, with a CK. It's because the most powerful magic in the world is words. Every Christian, I have to admit it, God created with word. All your Abrahamic religions, all the Jews and the Muslims all had the same story. The same God as the Hebrew, the Allah. It's written by kings. And so it was a baby, and he was learning. As he learned words, he could get what he wanted. So the words were his first magic. And the best book I know about that is called Self-Talk. And it tells how the brain processes words and how the words have so much power over controlling the body. And it's just a little self-hypnotism. You can change habits, overeating, smoking, whatever, just by the words. You don't have to change anything. It's just by what you say. And so first you got to get away from all the negative words. You got to get away from the negative people and let them know you don't want to hear it. And then you just feed yourself positive words. And your brain will just do it. And you don't know how. It's magic. That book's called Self-Talk. And, at the beginning he'll explain how the brain works and how the words have so much power. It's a self-hypnotism. And then he'll teach you how to create self-talk. You have to put the words in certain order. And then he's got another book with of over 1,000 different things that you might need help with, that he already put the self-talk together, for weight loss or smoking, gambling, whatever your problem is. It's just talk that cures it. And so you probably ain't heard of this because it probably puts all your psychologists out of business when people learn they can do all this themselves. So let me try to get as much of this as I can in here. I read the first 12 lines, the last two movies, and it's talking about the moon as if she's a whore. And so this is the less of it loom, Loum, loom, the light. The less of it loom a mirror. The less of it loom a mirror. And that means that they knew that the light coming off the moon was mirroring from Ra, the sun, and less of it loom a mirror. And so it's easy to see it's still talking about the moon here. And so I've figured out from reading this chapter, that the name of the days, the first name comes from the moon. You had 28 first names. And the second name also comes from the moon, but also the sun. The sun, where the full moon sits, depends on where the sun sits. And so, that's where your word time come from. So this is just a partial word. And you see sometimes they say it means days. Has a bunch of meanings, but always has to do with time. Year, day, defined in the evening and morning, a division of time, a working day, time, a period, a year, a 2-day. And so they give it all kind of meanings, and it's because it's just a part of a word that goes with what's surrounding it. It goes with the mirror, and it goes with to illumine the light of the mirror. And had decree, written into law, had decree of rasa, of rasos it, of rasos et, of at. And so raso, that's where your word brasso come from. On the boat we used to have to shine all the brass, keep the green off of it, and that's where that word comes. Brasso comes from this raso that means shine, of the shines it, the shines at. It also means, to shave, and that's what you're doing when you're shining something. You're polishing down all the high spots to make everything smooth. It also means smooth. Well, you run into a smooth character, and he's probably wicked. Watch out for him. The less of it loom, the less light that mirrors, a decree of the shines it. And so I'm just reading one of the ways this reads. It reads several more ways, and I just read the easiest one because I know this is difficult. But this the key becomes the W. It's a Kai, and I tell you it's the same in the Greek, and I'm going to show you some proof of that. And it's in this word they give righteousness. You see the key right here, the Kai, and it's and it just, you look across, and it usually sits across from a word that starts with a vav, just meaning and. But even when it's in the middle of a word, you remove that and you replace it with a vav, which is a U, a V, or a W. And so a righteousness comes from the word that means those, E-T-H-E-O-S, those of devotion. Those of devotion. This does not say righteousness. It says devotion. And so I'm pretty much definitely going to come back and read all this in the Greek too when I'm finished with the Hebrew. And so this is reading, just a V, and then you turn around here and read it the other way. And so this way it's a I, K, and then the A, and then L, the vical. And I'm pretty sure that's where the word fickle's coming from, changing frequently, especially in regards to loyalties, interests, or affection. The affection that the moon has for the sun. And so Vickle backwards as, and then T-O, the dot up top says read it O with it, and as to it as. And Vickle as to it as, it has, it's changing frequently. You homo, Y-E-W, H-O-M-M-O-U, ya homo, ya same type, annihil to, and lay as in. And Vickle as to it as ya homo, annihil to lay as in. And then it has another mark under here. It's a vav. So it's a K-A-V-I-D. The caved, in a cavity. And caved had fedits, QDX, the fedits, QDTS, the fedits defies of. From spot, make a judgment from the spot the moon sits, to a hurry. And I believe this a hurry, usually means after, they'll say. And I believe this is arrive. And from the spot to arrive, colors, K-A-L backwards I-R-S. The colors is revillain, V-L-B, V-L-B, villain, B is in. And you see that they understood what this mark means here, because usually they just say the LB means the heart, and they understand that when you see this, you're reading it be in love, in the heart, So they understood this. They just didn't want to let us know. But it's the colors is revealing, and your true colors is coming out. And so when the moon's red, you have it happens during a full moon. It's letting you know, you always have a red full moon before an eclipse. It's letting you know that they're lined up. The sun, the earth, and the moon are in line, and there's a good chance that next time the moon passes to new moon, that it's going to eclipse the sun. And that's why I was talking about the rouge, the red in the Greek. My backwards Muki, M-U-Q-I, M-U-K-I, my Muki fume. And so the fume is where they're getting this rise from, but they're forgetting this my Muki. And Muki is the Hebrew word, and it means the one who shines. My Muki, my baby, my woman, my Muki, the one who shines. Fume. My Muki fume. Liam. Liam is the place where it sets, Wherever you hit that golf ball, you got to hit it from its lie. And my Muki fume liam, and my shine rise, lie them. And you see this line's teasing this my right here, and my, and then my, and then my. It's talking about three of his belongings. And my Muki fume liam, and my arm. And this is another word for the serpent king. The arm in the Danish, the coming for the German, the worm, varmin, the worm, maggot, the grub, or in Old Norse, a snake or a worm. In Norwegian Norse, a snake or a worm. The Swedish, snake or vermin, ringworm. In zoology, snake or reptile, suborder of serpents. And my arm and royum, kingdom, my serpent kingdom. And that's how they get this evildoers out of here. They'll use the same Roy, the king. They use it for the same for the shepherd kings, the shepherds, and the kings. And that's how they get the evildoers out of this same word, because this is tack. Read it backwards. And my serpent kings. My serpent kings. And my shine rise, liam, and my serpent kingdom, and my bits it ticks in liam, up il Apollyon. And so my bits backwards, BTS is fragments of information, and my bits it, and the bite that the shine of the moon, sometimes it looked like somebody took a bite of a circle, my bits, that's his bits. And my bits it ticks in Liam, him, Apollyon, a hymn of Menion. And so it was talking about the moon being a whore all above this. And it says, the less of it loom, Amira had decree of the Rosso of the shines at, and Vickle, and changing as to it as you, Homo, the same of annihil to destroy it, annihilate, lay is in. And that's talking about, when the moon annihilates the sun, it's an eclipse. That's why you see that word, the clips, over there in the Greek across from this. And caved had fed its defies of, from spot to arrive, the colors is revealing. In my shine rise, my mooky fume lium, my arm royum, my serpent kingdom, and my bits it ticks in, and the little pieces of time lium, El Apollyon, the destroyer. So let me just finish this out. I'm going to see if I can get some dislikes on this movie. I can look at my channel stats and I can tell how many people watch the whole movie. And I look at the like ratio and the share ratio. And so I can understand, my magicians, they all want to keep this knowledge for themselves. They're the ones that's going to absorb the power. They're holding all this knowledge for themselves. And I understand their thought processes, why they wouldn't want to share this. But all you Christians, you cannot have your definition of Jesus and the truth. It will not happen. You cannot have the truth and your definition of Jesus. When it talks about men in the Bible, it's not talking about Christian men. It's talking about men that have a thought process. It's not talking about sheep. The Christians are all sheep. You're not going to be able to fix the world until you wake up and accept that there's no living Christian today that can read ancient Hebrew or Greek. You're all just believing a fairy tale that's been jammed over this. And so the main reason I do this, I'm trying to wake up the Christians, and they're just in total fear because Jesus is their whole life. And if their idea of Jesus disappeared, they would become nothing, And hey, remember, when you're on the bottom, you can only go up. Sometime you got to turn loose of the fairy tale. You got to try to wake up your brethren in the church. And it's hard, because they're in a deep sheep. But yeah, Christians are the major problem with the world. They're the ones that's causing all the problems we have today. They'll believe anything. As long as somebody puts on a suit and a tie and tells it, they'll believe it. And all the witches out there, they're about 10 levels above you. And I totally understand, their thought process and why they would want to keep this information to themselves. But the Christians, I understand y'all too. You don't want to tell anybody because you're in fear. You're in fear of the people in your church that look down on you if you don't believe the fairy tale. It's time for all you Christians to wake up. And so I believe I'm going to start my movies out now with a rag on Christian, just so they'll go ahead and go away at the beginning and not watch, because you don't deserve this knowledge. I am the Antichrist, and I approve of this message.